This weekend, a new Scott Adkins action film set during World War II prisoner of war releases. So let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Let me know, what did you think about Prisoner of War, if you've seen it? Otherwise, what's your favorite Scott Adkins action movie? I actually had the pleasure of interviewing Scott Adkins about this film, and I'm going to incorporate sections of that interview into this review to kind of inform you of how the movie was made and why they made certain specific choices. Also, if you want to check out the full interview, it is somewhere around here, and let's get started with the review. And to cut right to the chase, this is easily one of the best Scott Adkins action movies on a story level. Essentially, it is a story where his character is put in a POW camp during World War II, and to try and break his spirit, the person in charge of the camp keeps having him fight all of his different troops. And they're trying to break his spirit while he's trying to, behind the scenes, figure out a way to escape this POW camp. If you're familiar with the story of Louis Zamperini, a real-life World War II POW that kind of was in a very similar sort of situation, not with being put in fight tournaments, but having all these physical challenges, and they were just trying to break his spirit, and it couldn't be broken. They actually made a movie about him. Angelina Jolie directed it about 10 years back, called Unbroken. And this is kind of like a martial arts action version of the story of Louis Zamperini combined with The Great Escape. It has the martial arts that you want from a Scott Adkins movie, but it just has like a really nice inventive use of a POW camp to just have multiple different layers to it. There's very clear objectives. There's a clear villain that you want to see defeated. There's obstacles in the way. And so when you're not doing one of the martial arts fights, you're kind of doing the sneaking around, trying to do the Great Escape part of the movie. And then, of course, when you're doing the martial arts stuff, you're getting to see cool fight stuff. In addition to that, when I talked to Scott Adkins, he kind of talked about some of his influences that he tried to bring to this film. Yes, so I thoroughly enjoyed the film, and on this movie, you had a story credit on this film. Where exactly did the idea come from? How did you envision kind of this, World War II POW martial arts tournament kind of merger?
Yeah, I just had this idea knocking around in my head for a few years about doing something that felt like that famous scene from The Deer Hunter, but like a martial arts version of that. The bridge over the River Kwai felt too big in scale for the sorts of films that I normally end up doing. So I wanted to do something a bit more down and dirty like that. Well, I just love those survival movies. Like Men Against the Elements, or in the wilderness, or if it's like a survival type of movie like this, Behind Enemy Lines. I always gravitate to those sorts of stories.
When it comes to the action, it's not necessarily as flashy as some of his other movies, but it shouldn't be. In the context, it's a movie that's meant to be a little bit more grounded. So if he was just doing a bunch of cool flippy kick things, his most acrobatic stuff, it wouldn't fully make sense. And so instead, what they kind of tried to do is have kind of interesting fights to show how talented he was. And there's parts in it where he has to fight multiple people. And it's a kind of movie where they actually staged fights to where you really believed that this guy was fighting three people. All three people were coming at him, and he's doing something, to deflect two of them, to fight the one, to go back to the other two. And it's choreographed and shot in a way where you can see everything happening and believe that he's fighting multiple people. And the way that it kind of incorporates in the idea that he knows martial arts, that itself is what makes the guy in charge of the camp want to try and break his spirit. That he's offended that a white person has been studying martial arts and knows these secret moves that he's not supposed to know. And he's using moves that are not supposed to be known by outsiders to defeat his men. And so for him, that's a challenge against his culture that's causing him to become more and more oppressive, to just try and break this person and figure out, how does he know this information? How does he know how to do this? And so it just kind of incorporates into it multiple kind of levels of, there's the conflict of he's just the person holding them captive. But beyond that, there's a personal vendetta that's causing him to try and do what he's doing the way that he's doing it to make a point to his men as well as to the other POWs.
He wants to see this guy crushed because, that's kind of like, that's our identity there. Mm-hmm. How dare you? I'm gonna have you crushed in front of your men and in front of mine.
Right. And I think that's what kind of brings some of the weight to it, that it's this honor respect thing of like, I hate you, but I respect you. I'm like so many conflicting emotions. Today's video is brought to you by HelloFresh. Fall is almost here. That means cooler nights, craving heartier meals, and wanting something warm and satisfying. This season, HelloFresh has had a massive upgrade with their biggest menu yet. HelloFresh has doubled their menu. That means you can choose from 100 options each week. Likewise, you can feel great because their menu is even healthier with high protein and veggie packed recipes. Here's the part that I love. You can get steak and seafood delivered to your door every week, no extra cost. There's 3 times more seafood on the menu now at no extra cost. I'm not a cook, not a chef. They deliver the exact ingredients in the right proportions with clear directions on how to make these delicious meals. Therefore, even someone like me that does not know what they're doing is able to cook an amazing meal. The best way to cook just got better. Go to HelloFresh.com/SeanChandler10FM now to get 10 free meals plus a free item for life. 1 per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's HelloFresh.com/SeanChandler10FM to get 10 free meals plus free item for life. And because this is a smaller budget action movie, it can't have the most sensational, bombastic action set pieces. And so that what means that they try and make each fight matter. It makes you care about individual characters, whether the POWs or even some of the Japanese soldiers holding their prisoner, that not all of them are as buy into kind of the evil of what the head guy is doing. And so when certain things play out, you have very conflicted feelings on what happens in specific fights during the big climax of the movie. There's conflicting emotions that you have. And that's what kind of makes it interesting. Like, it just has more layers and nuance than what you get in most smaller budget direct-to-video action movies. There's just a little bit more care put into it. It's a bit of a better concept to bring something just a little bit fresh and original. It's familiar, the POW movie, but with this martial arts flavor that's not what you normally see. And set during World War II with just enough of a historic backdrop about the Bataan death marches that just kind of grounded in something that kind of treated as this historic fiction that's interesting. You know, if I were to kind of go in some of my issues with the movie, there's a few ways in which I wish we got to know a little bit more about the mysteries of our lead character's backstory and why he knew as much as he did, besides just kind of a couple lines of dialogue.
But because he's in British colonial Hong Kong, he considers himself an Englishman. And when the war kicks off, he goes back and he enlists in the RAF. And here he is behind enemy lines in Japan in Philippines with martial arts skill and prowess. So that's interesting in itself. I think you could make a film about this guy's backstory, to be honest. It'd be quite interesting. He's almost like a martial arts Indiana Jones.
And likewise, diving into a bit more of the psychology of the main villain could have been more satisfying in the way that some of the escape plays out. Some of it was maybe a little bit too far-fetched or a little bit too much of a stretch for what they would have been able to do. And it seems like you maybe could have done a pretty easy rewrite to come up with something maybe a little bit more plausible than the exact mechanism that comes out. But essentially, those are mostly all nitpicks. For what I wanted to get out of this film, it absolutely delivered it. I like direct-to-video action movies that are made for action fans. And this is one that's just solid, that has a stronger plot, stronger characters, a little bit more of an emotional hook, and a bit more of an idea that cuts through than your standard tournament fighter revenge story. It just, you can remember it as the World War II POW tournament fighter that's a little bit like The Great Escape and a little bit like the story of Louis Zamperini. And so for me, one of his strongest movies that he's been the lead on. If you're just going in for martial arts and you're a martial arts hound and you just want the crazy action, it's not fully that. If you want that, go watch The Undisputed, go watch the Boyka movies again. But as a movie overall, holistically, this is a really strong Scott Adkins action movie. Overall, I'm going to go with a B+. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 on the entertainment scale. Scott Adkins fans, this is a must-see film. Go check this movie out. Once again, I was able to interview him about the film. You can see that discussion right over there. We talked for about 10 minutes about the movie and 10 minutes about kind of the industry in general and some of his experiences working on like a Marvel movie. Great interview, great conversation. Love for you to check that out and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.